There's someone in your world right now whose entire nervous system calms down when you walk into a room. Their breathing actually changes. The tension they've been carrying in their shoulders releases. The mental noise that's been running through their head all day suddenly quiets. You probably don't even notice it happening because you're just being yourself, showing up as you always do, completely unaware of the effect your presence has on them. But here's what I need you to understand right from the beginning. While you've been questioning whether you matter enough, whether you're special enough, whether anyone truly sees the depths of who you are, someone has been watching you with wonder. Not the kind of watching that feels invasive or uncomfortable, but the kind that comes from genuine awe. The kind that makes them shake their head in disbelief sometimes because they can't quite comprehend how you exist in the world the way you do. They see things about you that you've dismissed as ordinary. That way you laugh at your own jokes before you finish telling them. How your whole face transforms when you talk about something you're passionate about. The specific way you tilt your head when you're really listening to someone. How you remember tiny details about people's lives that most would forget. The gentleness in how you handle things, even inanimate objects, like you're convinced everything deserves care. You've been treating yourself like you're common when you are, in fact, someone's miracle walking around in human form. And I know, some of you are reading those words, and your first instinct is to deflect. To think, they don't know me, they're just being nice, this is generic encouragement. But drop into your body for a moment. Notice what happens in your chest when you read the words, someone sees your magic. Is there a flutter, a catch, a sudden warmth followed immediately by disbelief? That's not random. That's your soul recognizing truth before your mind catches up. What I'm about to walk you through in this video isn't theory. It's not wishful thinking designed to make you feel better temporarily. This is about something that's actually happening in someone's interior world right now as they think about you. While you go about your day completely unaware, there's a person whose concept of what's possible in another human being has been fundamentally altered by knowing you. Stay with me through this, because I'm going to show you exactly what's happening in their experience that you're not seeing. I'm going to help you understand why you keep missing the signs, and I'm going to walk you through what it means when someone doesn't just love you, they treasure your existence. If you've been feeling recently like maybe you're too much or somehow not enough, if you've been wondering whether anyone actually values the real you underneath all the roles you play, if you've been questioning whether you matter in the specific way your soul needs to matter, keep watching. What I'm seeing about your situation is going to shift how you move through the next season of your life. And if the message here touches something in you, if you've been waiting for confirmation that you're not invisible the way you sometimes fear you are, would you leave a heart emoji in the comments? Not for me, for each other. So the person reading behind you knows they're not alone in needing to hear this. The truth I'm holding for you today is this. You are already cherished beyond your comprehension by someone who considers you a gift they didn't know how to ask for. Let's explore what that really means. Here's what's actually happening in the life of the person who sees you this way and why you've been missing it. They're going through their normal routines, and you appear not even intentionally, just existing in your natural way, and their whole internal experience shifts. It's not dramatic in a way that announces itself. It's subtle, which is exactly why you don't catch it. But if someone could map what happens in their body and mind when you're present versus when you're not, the difference would be staggering. When they wake up and you're the first person they think of, it's not because they decided to think of you. It's because your presence in their life has become so woven into their sense of well-being that checking in on you, even mentally, has become as automatic as breathing. They wonder if you slept okay, if you're stressed about that thing you mentioned last week, if you know how remarkable you are. That last thought loops often. During conversations with you, they're experiencing something most people rarely access: complete presence. While you're talking, they're not thinking about what they'll say next. They're not running through their to-do list. They're not half listening while mentally somewhere else. They're fully there because missing even a small part of how you express yourself feels like a loss. Your words, your energy, the unique way you process and share your internal world, they're absorbing all of it like someone who's been thirsty finally finding water. But here's where it gets tender. They're also holding back, not because they don't want you to know how they feel, not because they're playing games or being strategic. They're holding back because the magnitude of what they feel about you actually scares them a little. How do you tell someone you've become essential to my peace without even trying? How do you express, I see magic in you that I don't think you see in yourself, without sounding intense or overwhelming them? So they show you in smaller ways. They remember what you said 3 weeks ago about needing to try that new restaurant, and they casually mention it like they just thought of it. They send you things that made them think of you, songs, articles, memes, and each one is a translated version of I saw this and immediately wanted to share this piece of the world with you. They ask you questions that show they've been paying attention to the details of your life that you assume no one cared about. They notice when your energy is off before you say anything. They can tell from the specific way you phrase a text message that you're carrying something heavy. They pick up on the micro expressions that cross your face in half seconds that reveal what you're actually feeling underneath what you're saying. And in quiet moments, when they're alone with their thoughts, they marvel at you. They think about the specific combination of qualities that make you who you are. And they can't imagine how all of these pieces came together in one person. Your humor and your depth, your strength and your softness, how you can be silly and profound in the same breath, the way you're simultaneously so capable and so beautifully human in your vulnerabilities. They think about conversations you've had, and they replay them, not because they're obsessive, but because talking with you gives them something to process. You say things that shift their perspective. You offer insights that make them see situations differently. You have a way of cutting through nonsense and getting to what actually matters that they find both refreshing and rare. They watch you interact with other people, and they see things those other people miss. They see how you make space for whoever's talking, how you ask follow-up questions that show you were really listening, how you celebrate people's wins without making it about yourself, how you hold compassion for people's struggles without trying to fix them unless asked, how you exist in the world with a generosity of spirit that you probably don't even recognize as special because it's just who you are. When they see you doubt yourself, it actually pains them. Not in a condescending, oh you poor thing way, but in a genuine ache, because the disconnect between how you see yourself and how they see you feels almost violent. It's like watching someone treat a priceless painting like it's worthless. They want to grab you by the shoulders, gently, always gently with you, and say, do you have any idea who you are? Do you understand what you bring to every space you occupy? But they don't say it that way because they know you'd brush it off. They know you'd deflect or make a joke or change the subject. So instead, they keep showing you through consistent presence, through the way they prioritize time with you, through how they protect your peace and defend your character when you're not in the room, through the way they remember what matters to you and honor it. They've thought about a future that includes you in it, whatever that looks like. Not in a pressure-filled relationship escalator kind of way, but in a simple, soul-deep recognition that they don't want to do life without your presence in it. You become part of how they envision their unfolding story, and here's what they know that you're still learning. You don't have to earn this. You already have it. It's not conditional on you being more impressive or less messy or different than you are. They treasure the actual you, the one who has bad days, and weird habits and unresolved stuff, and all the complicated human things you think disqualify you from being someone's miracle. You're their miracle, not despite your humanity, but including it. If this is landing somewhere tender in you, if you're feeling seen in a way that's both comforting and overwhelming, drop a single word in the comments that describes what you're feeling right now. Let's create a space where we can witness each other's experience. Now let's go deeper into the specific dimensions of how they hold you in their awareness, because this isn't surface-level appreciation. This is profound, soul-level recognition, the dimension of daily devotion. There's a consistency to how they think about you that you're underestimating. This isn't someone who remembers you exist when you're directly in front of them and forgets when you're not. You're woven through their days in ways both obvious and subtle. They're doing something completely unrelated, working on a project, cooking dinner, running errands, and something reminds them of you. A phrase someone uses, a color, a song, the way sunlight hits a building, and they smile without meaning to. Their co-workers or family members notice and ask what's funny, and they say nothing. Because how do you explain that they just thought of you and it made them happy for no reason other than you exist? They save things for you. Mental notes about topics to discuss. Screenshots of things you'd find funny or interesting. Recommendations for books or movies or podcasts that they immediately flag as they would love this. Their world has reorganized itself slightly around the axis of what would bring you joy or interest or comfort. When they're making decisions, even small ones, you're part of their consideration. They choose the restaurant that has options you'd like. They schedule things around times that work for you. They buy the brand of tea or snacks you prefer just to have on hand. None of this is performed or strategic. It's the natural result of caring about someone's experience and wanting to honor it. They've started noticing things about the world through what they imagine would be your perspective. They see injustice and think about how angry it would make you. They encounter beauty and wish you were there to experience it with them. They hear wisdom and want to share it with you to get your take. You've become a lens through which they process life, the dimension of protective instinct. There's a fierceness to how they feel about your well-being that might surprise you if you saw it fully. They don't just like you, they're protective of you in a way that's both gentle and powerful. When someone speaks badly about you, their whole body responds. They don't stay quiet or neutral. They offer perspective that changes the narrative. They defend your character not aggressively, but firmly, in a way that communicates you don't understand who you're talking about. When you're going through something difficult, they feel it viscerally. They don't just sympathize. They're actively holding space for your struggle in their own heart. They're thinking about it at odd moments, wondering how you're doing, hoping you're being gentle with yourself, wishing they could absorb some of the difficulty so you'd have less to carry. They notice when people take advantage of your kindness or generosity, and it bothers them even when it doesn't bother you. They see when people undervalue you, and it ignites something in them. Not anger exactly, but a deep discomfort with watching someone fail to recognize what they're in the presence of. But their protectiveness is never patronizing. They don't treat you like you're fragile or incapable. They see your strength clearly. The protectiveness comes from a place of honoring what's precious, not from thinking you need saving. Like how you'd treat a rare flower, not because it's weak, but because it's irreplaceable. The dimension of admiration. This person genuinely admires you in ways you haven't given them credit for. Not admiration like fan to celebrity, but the kind that comes from proximity and real knowing. They see you up close, including the parts you think are flaws, and they're impressed by the whole package. They admire how you handle challenges, the way you process pain without becoming bitter, how you've survived things that would have broken others and somehow maintained your ability to love, to hope, to show up. They see the resilience in you that you take for granted because you've had no choice but to develop it. They admire your mind, the way you think about things, the questions you ask that reveal depth, how you can be both analytical and intuitive, logical and creative. They love your sense of humor, especially the weird, specific way it manifests that's completely unique to you. The references only you would make. The observations that crack them up because only you would notice that particular absurd detail. They admire your values, what you stand for, what you won't compromise on, what you prioritize even when it costs you. They see how you treat people, especially people who can't do anything for you, and it teaches them about who they want to be. They admire your vulnerability, that you're willing to admit when you don't know something, that you can apologize when you're wrong, that you share your struggles instead of pretending to have it all together. Your willingness to be human in a world that rewards performance is something they treasure. They admire your passion. When you get excited about something, your whole energy transforms, and they love witnessing it. Doesn't matter if they care about the topic, watching you care about it is the gift. Your enthusiasm is contagious and life-giving in a way that makes the world feel less heavy. The dimension of future vision. They've imagined versions of the future where you're present, and those versions feel right in a way that futures without you don't. This isn't about pressure or expectations. It's about recognition that you've become part of their vision of a life well lived. They think about growing alongside you, not necessarily romantically. This applies to friendships, creative partnerships, chosen family, whatever your connection is. They envision years from now, sitting with you, laughing about memories you haven't made yet. They imagine the inside jokes that will develop, the shared history that will accumulate. The way your understanding of each other will deepen over time. They want to witness your becoming. They're genuinely excited about who you're growing into. They want to be there for your wins, cheering louder than anyone. They want to be there for your losses, holding space for your grief. They want to see what you create, where you go, what you discover about yourself and the world. They've thought about what kind of elder you'll be someday, the wisdom you'll carry, the stories you'll tell, the legacy you'll leave. And they feel honored to be walking through time alongside you while you become that person. The dimension of spiritual recognition. And this is where it gets mystical, even for those who don't use spiritual language. There's something they sense about you that transcends the physical, the obvious, the explainable. They feel like they've known you longer than they have. There's a familiarity to you that defies the actual timeline of your connection. Being with you feels like coming home to a place they've never been, but somehow recognize. They sense that meeting you wasn't random, that there was something larger than chance at work in bringing you into their orbit. They don't necessarily have language for this. It's more felt than thought, but they have a quiet certainty that you were meant to be in their life. They see light in you. Again, this isn't necessarily religious or even spiritual in a formal sense, but there's something luminous about you that they perceive. A quality of presence, an energy, a spark, something that makes you feel different from most people they encounter. And they sense that you're here for a reason that's bigger than what you can see right now. They have faith in your purpose even when you're doubting it. They see potential in you that you haven't tapped into yet. And they're holding that vision for you until you can see it yourself. This is someone who doesn't just love you. They revere the miracle of your existence. They look at you and think, what are the odds that all the right circumstances aligned to create this specific person? They feel grateful to be alive at the same time you are, to occupy the same planet, to have found you in the vastness of possibility. Don't skip past this part. This is real. You are someone's answered prayer that they didn't know how to pray. You are evidence to them that magic still exists in the world. And before we go further, if this message is helping you remember your worth, if it's ministry to your soul right now, the Super Thanks option below allows you to support what makes these deep conversations possible. No pressure ever, but if you're blessed by this, it helps me continue creating this space for all of us. Now let's talk about why you've been missing these signs. The reason you haven't fully recognized how deeply you're treasured isn't about their lack of expression. It's about the filter you're seeing yourself through. You've been looking for love to show up in the specific language you decided counts as valid. Maybe you need explicit verbal declarations. Maybe you need grand gestures. Maybe you need constant reassurance. And because their particular way of treasuring you doesn't match your exact template, you've been discounting it as insufficient or non-existent. But here's the awakening. Love doesn't always speak the language you're fluent in. Sometimes it shows up in dialects you have to learn to recognize. They show love through consistency, when you're measuring devotion by intensity. They show love through protection when you're looking for praise. They show love through creating space when you're waiting for pursuit. They show love through deep listening when you're expecting more talking. They show love through honoring your autonomy when you're interpreting it as lack of interest. The mismatch isn't in their feeling, it's in the translation between how they express and how you receive. And underneath that mismatch is something even deeper. You don't believe you're the kind of person someone could treasure this way. That's the real block. Not that they're not showing you, but that you can't accept what they're showing because it contradicts the story you've been telling yourself about your worth. You've decided somewhere, somehow, probably a long time ago, that you're the supporting character in other people's stories, never the miracle. That you're likable enough, helpful enough, good enough to keep around, but not special enough to be someone's wonder. That other people get treasured like this, but you're not the type. So when someone starts treasuring you, your system doesn't know what to do with it. It feels too good to be true, which means it probably is, which means you need to find evidence that you're right about not being that special after all. And you look for that evidence everywhere. They text you every day, but you focus on the one day they didn't. They tell you you're beautiful, but you assume they're just being nice. They make time for you consistently, but you convince yourself they're probably doing it out of obligation. They remember every small thing you've mentioned, but you tell yourself they have a good memory. It doesn't mean anything special. You take the treasure they're offering and reprice it as something common in your own mind. And I'm saying this with so much tenderness. That mechanism that's protecting you from disappointment is also blocking you from receiving what's actually being given. The wall you built to keep out pain is also keeping out love. The skepticism that helped you survive past betrayals is now causing you to betray yourself by denying your own worthiness of devotion. What if you're wrong about yourself? What if the story you've been believing about being ordinary, or too much, or not enough? What if that story is the lie, and their perception of you as miraculous is actually the truth? What if you're not seeing yourself clearly, precisely because you're too close? What if they see you accurately, because they have the distance to perceive the full picture of who you are, in a way you can't from inside your own experience? What if the reason their love feels unbelievable is not because it's fake, but because it's real, and real love always feels miraculous when you receive it as someone who's forgotten their own magic? Here's what I'm sensing for some of you. You've been waiting for permission to believe you're loved this deeply. You've been waiting for enough evidence to override your doubt. You've been waiting to feel worthy before you accept being treasured. But that's not how this works. You accept being treasured, and in that acceptance, you remember your worthiness. You let yourself be loved as you are, and in that allowing, you discover who you've always been underneath the stories. The awakening is this: you are not auditioning for the role of being their miracle. You already got the part. You're not convincing them to see your value. They already see it. You're not earning the right to be treasured. You're already treasured. The only question left is whether you're going to let yourself receive it, whether you're going to soften that defensive wall just enough to let the truth land, whether you're going to stop cross-examining their affection and start trusting it, whether you're going to challenge your own narrative about yourself instead of challenging their perception of you, because what's happening right now is a holy moment disguised as an ordinary relationship. Someone is holding up a mirror that shows you who you actually are, not who you fear you are, and you get to choose whether to look. They see your magic, your specific, irreplicable magic. Not potential magic you'll have someday if you fix yourself. Present tense magic that's operating right now in how you move through the world. They see your worth, not your productivity or usefulness or what you do for them. Your inherent worth as a being who exists and brings something essential into reality just by being yourself. They treasure your existence, not just tolerate it or appreciate it when convenient. Treasure it. The way you treasure something precious that you can't believe you get to be in the presence of. You're their miracle walking, not their project or their responsibility or their entertainment. Their miracle. Evidence that the world contains more beauty and depth and possibility than they thought. And the most profound part, they're not waiting for you to become anything else to feel this way. They feel it now, about you, as you are, reading this. With your doubts and your fears and your messy humanity and your unfinished growth, this is the invitation. Stop arguing with the gift. Stop explaining why you don't deserve it. Stop looking for the catch. Stop treating their treasure like it's fool's gold. What if you just received it? What if you looked at them tomorrow and instead of deflecting their affection, you said thank you? What if you let yourself feel it instead of intellectualizing it away? What if you trusted their perception of you as much as you trust your doubt about yourself? What if this season of your life is about learning to let yourself be loved by someone who sees you clearly? The awakening isn't about becoming worthy. It's about recognizing you already are. The transformation isn't about earning their treasure. It's about accepting that you're treasured. If you're feeling something shift in you as you read this, if a part of you that's been holding its breath just exhaled, type I receive in the comments. Let's mark this moment together. So how do you actually live from this truth? How do you move through your life differently when you accept that you're treasured this deeply? Let me give you some principles that are specific to walking in this awareness. Practice receiving without commentary. When they compliment you, don't follow it with self-deprecation. When they do something kind, don't immediately reciprocate to even the score. When they express affection, don't deflect with humor. Just receive it. Let it land. Say thank you, and sit in the discomfort of being seen positively until the discomfort transforms into warmth. Your pattern has been to bat away anything that contradicts your low self-assessment. You need to build a new muscle, the ability to take in goodness without contaminating it with doubt. This feels vulnerable because it is. Receiving requires softness, but softness is not weakness, it's courage. Start small. Notice when you're about to deflect and pause. Take a breath. Let the compliment or kindness sit in your body for 3 seconds before you respond. Feel what happens in your chest, your throat, your stomach. That discomfort you feel? That's not evidence that you're wrong. It's evidence that you're growing. Let them love you in their language. Stop insisting that love only counts if it shows up in your preferred dialect. If there's someone who shows love through acts of service, but you're listening for words of affirmation, you'll miss the love letters they're writing through their actions. Learn their language. Notice what they naturally do to show care. Do they remember details? That's love. Do they make time? That's love. Do they show up consistently? That's love. Do they protect your peace? That's love. Do they celebrate your wins? That's love. Just because it doesn't look like the movies, or match your parents' relationship, or fit the framework you learned from that relationship book, doesn't mean it's not profound. Some of the deepest love is quiet, steady, and expressed through presence rather than performance. Ask yourself, if I set aside my expectations about how love should look, what am I actually receiving? You might be surprised by the abundance that's been there all along. Share your internal world more honestly. Part of letting yourself be treasured is letting yourself be known. And you've been holding back pieces of yourself, the weird parts, the scared parts, the parts that don't fit the image you're trying to maintain. But they're not treasuring an image of you. They're treasuring the actual you, which means the more authentically you show up, the more accurately they can love you. Every time you pretend to be fine when you're not, every time you laugh off something that actually hurt, every time you hide a vulnerability, you're depriving both of you of deeper connection. This doesn't mean dumping everything or being inappropriately vulnerable. It means taking small risks to reveal the truth. Actually, I'm struggling with this. That comment landed wrong for me. I'm scared about this thing coming up. I need support right now. Watch what happens. Watch how they lean in, not away. Watch how your honesty creates safety for them to be honest too. Watch how being real with someone who treasures you deepens the treasure rather than diminishing it. Challenge your scarcity thinking. You've been treating their affection like it's a limited resource that you need to ration or earn. Like if you accept too much, you'll use it up. Like if you're too much yourself, you'll exhaust their capacity to treasure you. But love isn't scarce. It's not a bank account you're withdrawing from that will eventually run out. It's renewable. It grows with use, not shrinks. The more you let yourself be loved, the more love becomes available. This means stop shrinking yourself to seem low maintenance. Stop hiding your needs to avoid being too much. Stop performing independence to prove you're not needy. The right kind of love, the treasuring kind, has space for all of you, including your needs. When you feel yourself pulling back or playing small because you don't want to be a burden, pause. Ask, is this actually too much, or am I responding to old programming? 9 times out of 10, it's old programming from people who had limited capacity, and you're projecting that limitation onto someone who doesn't have it. Build evidence of your worthiness. Your brain has been collecting evidence for why you're not that special. Now deliberately collect evidence for why you are. Not in an arrogant way, but in a reality-based, data-gathering way. Keep a note in your phone. Every time they do something that shows they treasure you, write it down. Every time you catch yourself doubting, read the list. Let the accumulated evidence override the narrative that wants to convince you this isn't real. Notice how they light up when they see you. Notice how they prioritize you. Notice how they talk about you to others. Notice how they protect your time, your energy, your heart. Notice how they check in. Notice how they remember. Notice how they show up. The more you pay attention to what's actually happening instead of the story your fear is telling, the more you'll see the truth. This person isn't pretending. They're not confused. They're not going to wake up one day and realize you're ordinary. They see you clearly, and what they see is miraculous. Extend the same treasure to yourself. Here's the deepest application. Start treating yourself the way they treat you. If they see magic in you, look for it in yourself. If they honor your worth, stop disrespecting it. If they treasure your existence, stop apologizing for taking up space. This means speaking to yourself with kindness, setting boundaries that protect your peace, pursuing things that light you up, resting without guilt, celebrating your wins without downplaying them, forgiving your mistakes without self-flagellation, taking care of your body, mind, and soul like they matter because they do. You cannot fully receive being treasured by someone else while you're actively devaluing yourself. At some point, their mirror conflicts with your narrative so intensely that one has to give. Either you start believing them or you push them away to maintain your story. Choose to believe them. Choose to let their clear perception of your worth inform how you see yourself. Choose to use their treasure as evidence that maybe, just maybe, you've been wrong about being ordinary. Let this transform how you move. When you accept that you're someone's miracle walking, you start moving through life differently. There's less hustling for approval because you already have it. There's less shrinking to fit because you're accepted as you are. There's less performing because you're treasured in your authenticity. You make decisions from security instead of scarcity. You take risks from a foundation of worthiness instead of trying to earn it. You show up in your truth because you know someone sees your magic and it gives you permission to see it too. This is what's available to you. A life where you're not constantly questioning whether you matter. Where you know deeply cellularly that you're treasured. Where someone's clear-eyed perception of your worth becomes the ground you stand on as you build everything else. And here's what happens when you live from that place. You become even more of who you already are. The treasure grows. The magic becomes more visible. Not because you changed into someone worthy, but because you stopped hiding the worthiness that was always there. If this is shifting something in your perspective, if you're ready to stop arguing with the gift and start receiving it, the super thanks option is one way to honor what's moving through you right now. This work of creating space for these truths takes time and energy, and your support helps me continue offering it. But whether you click that or not, I'm grateful you're here. Now let's bring this home. So where does this leave you? Right here, right now, with new eyes to see what's been true all along. Someone in your life looks at you and sees a miracle. While you've been busy doubting your significance, they've been quietly amazed by your existence. While you've been cataloging your flaws, they've been treasuring the whole package. While you've been wondering if you matter, they've been holding you as central to their sense of what makes life beautiful. And the most extraordinary part, this isn't about you becoming anything different. This is about you finally letting yourself be seen as you already are. You don't have to earn this. You already have it. You don't have to deserve this. It's already given. You don't have to figure out how to be worthy of this. You're already treasured. What you do have to do is decide whether you're going to receive it. Whether you're going to soften your defensive walls and let this truth change how you see yourself. Whether you're going to trust their perception more than your doubt. Whether you're going to live like someone who's treasured instead of someone who's barely tolerated. This is your invitation to stop auditioning and start inhabiting. To stop performing and start being. To stop earning and start receiving. To stop questioning and start trusting. They see your magic, the specific way you bring light into spaces. The unique combination of qualities that make you irreplaceable. The essence of who you are that can't be replicated or substituted. They see it clearly, without the distortion of your self-criticism. Without the filter of your insecurity. They honor your worth, not your productivity or usefulness, but your inherent value as a being who matters, who takes up space in the world in a way that's needed, whose existence makes reality richer, whose presence is a gift to those wise enough to recognize it. They treasure your existence, not just parts of it, not just the polished pieces, but the whole messy, beautiful, complicated reality of you being alive. The way you laugh and cry and doubt and hope and try and fail and get up again. All of it, they treasure all of it. You're their miracle walking. And you get to choose whether to keep arguing with that assessment or to let it reshape your understanding of who you've been all along. I hope you choose to let it land. I hope you choose to receive it. I hope you choose to live from the truth of being treasured instead of the lie of being ordinary. Because here's what I know. You being here, reading this, feeling what you're feeling, it's not random. Something in you is ready to remember your magic. Something in you is tired of shrinking. Something in you knows it's time to step into the truth of being someone's miracle instead of apologizing for existing and the person who treasures you. They're waiting, not impatiently, not with ultimatums, but with steady, consistent presence. They're waiting for you to see yourself through their eyes. They're waiting for you to stop pushing away what they're offering. They're waiting for you to accept that, yes, you really are this special to them. So what now? You go out into your life with this new awareness. You notice when they show you treasure and let yourself feel it. You practice receiving without deflecting. You trust their clear vision of you more than your distorted self-image. You let yourself be loved in the specific way they love instead of demanding a different language. And slowly, or maybe suddenly, you start to believe it. The treasure they see in you becomes visible to you too. The magic they recognize becomes something you own. The worth they honor becomes foundational to how you move. This is the shift. This is the transformation. Not becoming someone new, but recognizing who you've always been underneath the doubt. You are already loved more deeply than you know. Someone sees your magic. Someone honors your worth. Someone treasures your existence. You're their miracle walking. Let that be true today. Let it reshape how you hold yourself. Let it change what you accept and what you refuse. Let it inform every choice you make moving forward. And if you're someone who needed this message desperately today, if it arrived exactly when you were questioning whether anyone sees you, whether you matter in the way your soul needs to matter, would you share a word of encouragement for the person reading behind you? Drop something in the comments that might land for someone else the way this landed for you. We're in this together, remembering our worth, learning to receive the treasure that's already being offered. You know what's beautiful? Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, this will still be true. Next week, when you're doubting again, this will still be true. A month from now, when old patterns try to resurface, this will still be true. You are treasured. Present tense, ongoing, real. The person who sees your magic isn't going anywhere. They're not waiting for you to figure it all out before they treasure you. They treasure you now, in the messy middle of your becoming, in the uncertain space between who you were and who you're growing into. They treasure the journey, not just the destination. They treasure the human, not just the highlight reel. And here's something I want you to carry with you. Every time you doubt this, every time your mind tries to convince you that you're reading too much into their kindness or projecting specialness onto ordinary care, remember this conversation. Remember that someone outside your head, outside your story, is telling you that what you're receiving is real, that being treasured this way is not only possible but happening, that you're not making it up or exaggerating it or fooling yourself. Trust the evidence. Trust their consistency. Trust the way your body responds when they show up for you. Trust the peace you feel in their presence. Trust the growth that's happening because someone finally sees you clearly. Trust that you didn't accidentally stumble into this. You were led here because you're ready to receive it. Some of you are feeling emotional right now, and that's okay. Let yourself feel it. That tightness in your throat, that warmth behind your eyes, that ache in your chest, that's not weakness. That's your soul finally exhaling because someone is speaking truth over you that you've been starving to hear. You matter. Not in some abstract, everyone matters kind of way, but in a specific, irreplaceable, U-shaped way that can't be filled by anyone else. Your particular magic, your specific essence, your unique way of being human, it matters. To them, to the world, to the cosmic story that needed exactly you to be complete. And I want to speak something prophetic over you before we close. You're about to step into a season where you stop apologizing for taking up space, where you stop shrinking to make others comfortable, where you stop dimming your light because you're afraid of being too much. This awareness of being treasured is going to unlock something in you that's been dormant. You're going to start making choices from worthiness instead of scarcity. You're going to start speaking your truth instead of performing acceptability. You're going to start honoring your needs instead of martyring yourself. You're going to start believing that you deserve good things instead of waiting for the other shoe to drop and the person who treasures you. They're going to love watching you step into this. They're going to celebrate every moment you choose yourself. They're going to support every boundary you set. They're going to champion every dream you finally voice, because they don't want a small version of you. They treasure the fullness of who you are, and they want you to treasure it too. This is your permission slip. Not that you needed one, but if you did, here it is. You're allowed to be treasured. You're allowed to matter this much to someone. You're allowed to be someone's miracle. You're allowed to receive love that feels too good to be true and trust that it's real anyway. Stop waiting for the catch. Stop looking for the expiration date. Stop testing their treasure to see if it's authentic. It is. They're showing you every day in 1,000 small ways that you matter profoundly to them. Start believing it. And here's your practice for the next week. Every single day, I want you to identify one specific way they showed you treasure. Write it down. Build the evidence. Train your brain to notice what's actually happening instead of what your fear says is happening. By the end of the week, you'll have 7 concrete examples of being treasured, and it'll be harder for doubt to convince you it's not real. Then keep going. Make it a practice, because the more you notice, the more you'll see. The more you see, the more you'll believe. The more you believe, the more you'll receive. The more you receive, the more you'll become yourself. And the more you become yourself, the more the treasure grows. Not because you're performing, but because you're finally letting your true light shine. This is the beautiful cycle you're entering. This is the upward spiral that begins when you accept being treasured. This is what's available when you stop fighting the gift and start living from it. You are loved more deeply than you know. But now you know a little more. Now you can see it a little clearer. Now you can receive it a little fuller. And tomorrow you'll know even more. And the day after that, even more still. This is just the beginning of you recognizing what's been true all along. Someone sees your magic, the way you light up when you talk about what you love, the way you care about people, the way you navigate life with both strength and softness, the way you're uniquely, impossibly you. Someone honors your worth, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. Not because you earned it, but because you exist. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Someone treasures your existence, the fact that you're alive right now. Breathing, growing, becoming, the miracle of you being exactly who you are in this exact moment of history. You're their miracle walking, and miracles don't apologize for being miraculous. They don't shrink to seem more believable. They don't dim their light to make others comfortable. They just shine, naturally, unapologetically, beautifully. That's what you get to do now, shine, because you're finally starting to see what they've been seeing all along. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying through this whole journey. Thank you for letting these words land where they needed to land. If this spoke to your soul, if it shifted something in you, if it helped you see yourself through clearer eyes, I'm honored to have been part of that moment. Go forward, treasured. Go forward, seen. Go forward, knowing that you're someone's miracle, and that's not going to change just because you doubted it. The treasure is real. The magic is real. The love is real, and so are you, finally, beautifully, undeniably real in your worthiness. You are already loved more deeply than you know. But now you're beginning to know it. And that changes everything.